Well, g'day folks, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the Isle of Bute. A little bit of a last minute decision to come here. We left the Isle of Arran this morning. You would have seen that last week, and we were looking for a park run to do in the area, well, on the east coast. And I happened to notice one on this little clump of land. We thought, Isle of Bute, let's do that. So park runs tomorrow. So we've come down to sort of the south-ish of the island, parked up. Now, when we first arrived, the light looked like it was going to be quite promising, but since then things have kind of clouded over quite a lot. Now, we're here for slightly longer than we were in Arran, 2, maybe 3 whole days. So, as usual, we'll just go for a little bit of a bimble and see what we can see. The geology behind me here looks incredible. So maybe find a couple of little intimate shots, and maybe, because of course we are surrounded, Bute itself is quite sort of flat and rolling, but we are surrounded by some lovely hills, not least, I can't see it at the moment, but apparently very good views over to Goat Fell on the Isle of Arran. So, but I just thought I'd check in as we've just parked up. Maybe some photography later on this evening, or maybe first thing tomorrow morning. Ooh, that light's starting to pop out again. Who knows? Anyway, Isle of Bute. Let's see what we can find. Well, good morning again, folks. So, no photography to be had last night. It did indeed kind of cloud over pretty quickly. And as you can see this morning, quite cloudy out on the horizon as well. Now, some lovely sort of clouds. Oh, hang on a minute, I think it's an otter. Quite cloudy again out on the horizon, but I really wanted to see whether or not now we've got some lovely clouds up above us here. But I loved just the textures of these rocks and the curves of these rocks down below us. So what I might do is I might try to see whether I can get a composition set up here, just in case we get any type of little gap on the horizon where the sun's going to be rising. And also potential for otters. None too shabby, Isle of Bute, none too shabby. Right, let's get set up. So nice and complex. So huge band of cloud, obviously snuffing out the sun at sunrise, and for quite a while after that, it would seem. So I started looking, rather than looking at the bigger scene, because I just think there's just too much of a, well, first of all, too much of a sort of difference in light and shadow. I was just sort of looking at the more, not let's say the more intimate scene, but certainly removing the sea and the sky. But it's very complex. So I've been just wandering around, sort of back and forward. I haven't moved too far. In fact, you might even be able to see the van back there somewhere. Just taking my time. That's the one thing that you're afforded when the light doesn't really happen. Just time to kind of just see what's what. Now, I didn't get a chance to make an image with it, but as you start to, or as I start to kind of take my time looking in an area, I start to see potential relationships. And just below me here, there was a nice kind of pattern of the rock, of the geology. And then up in the sky, that pattern was kind of imitated by some passing clouds. Now, if anything, as I sort of take time to just look around, I would even say that there's a heavier cloud moving in behind me here, which is actually just lowering the light even more. There was a gap, and looking at the sort of the maps, it would seem as though in the area I'm in and over to Arran, we were going to get this kind of almost little pocket of clear sky. But that seems to be being snuffed out now very quickly. So, oh, and by the way, that wasn't an otter. Raised its head again. I should have known. Raised its head again. It was actually a seal. You can always tell an otter, because an otter going below the water will make a splosh. a sail will just go down below. Right, I'm going to carry on. Well, the other thing is, I think with the kind of geology here and the shapes and the patterns, I think a square crop works best here. I think when you go for a normal 4x3 or sort of 3x2, there's just too much. If there was light kind of coming in on here, you might be able to get away with it, but I think a square crop is actually sort of be my best shot. But that light now, being sucked away, almost like we're getting an eclipse or something. Anyway, I'll keep looking. So I've carefully made my way across the rocks here. It's really, really slippy, and it's not 100% slippy, so you're kind of walking along and all of a sudden you're like, ooh. Still in a square format, and it really is just a case of focusing in on some of those, the shapes, patterns, colours, textures in the rocks. Absolutely beautiful. And there's a kind of a couple that sort of, without me having to move too far between the scenes, that I just shot here. One was sort of a light and dark side of things, and then the other one was just showing up some of that lovely pink rock and definitely some of that the lines coming through it. I am in no way experienced from a geology point of view, so not quite sure what has caused this, or probably should read up on that. But actually, we now do have a slight little gap in the clouds. Now the sun hasn't poked through it yet, so what I may look to do is either reshoot these images as the ambient light starts to kind of pour over the scene, or maybe look for another scene. But what I'll do is I'll put up these two images, just a little kind of detail off the rocks, detail off those shapes, and then we'll hopefully get a little bit of luck with a little bit of direct light onto the scene in front of me. I think we are going to get fortunate. I think I can see in the distance light on the distant kind of rolling hills, which means in maybe about 30 seconds I'm going to get some light on the foreground here, and in fact I can start to see that ambient light click up, and you can probably see it on my face as well. So again, on a square format, and just making use of those repeating patterns, those repeating lines, that lovely pink. Does it work with the green? Not quite sure. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to end up with about a couple of minutes of direct light on these rocks. Not sure whether we'll get much after that until later in the day. So it might be a case of putting you away and seeing whether I can sort of fine-tune this particular composition and maybe look for one more. With the direct light, hopefully spilling onto the landscape, it might even give me the opportunity to shoot a slightly wider vista. Right, I'm going to put you away and we'll catch up when the light does its thing. So that light lasted about 5-6 minutes. Did I do it justice? Not too sure, not too sure. There was maybe one image that sort of potentially may work. I also got sucked in a little bit to looking for a wider scene. Certainly don't think that worked, not least the separation between these foreground rocks and the distant landscape. Now there's some lovely, I've actually packed the camera away because kind of quite a heavy bank of cloud now, but just looking across the way to the mainland, and there's some mountains poking through. It looks like there's some early morning mist over there. Certainly it said today the wind is down to like 3 or 4 miles per hour, hardly anything. But a beautiful scene, and as I say, we're here for another couple of days, so hopefully get out and do a little bit more exploring with a camera. It's also very good for, there's a photographer that I used to follow on here called John Williams. I'll put a link to his work below. Phenomenal wildlife photographer, and a real advocate for the wildlife here on the Isle of Bute. Maybe later on today we'll go for a little bit of a wildlife watch as well. But actually one of the reasons for coming over to Bute was to run a park run. And that's exactly what we're going to go and do in a couple of hours' time. It's about 6:45. Going to go in, grab a coffee. As luck would have it, where we're parked, there's actually a little bench. And I'm going to go make a coffee, sit out with the binoculars and see what I can see. Well guys, once again, thanks a lot for following along. And until next time, which will probably be back on the Isle of Bute. Oh, and I'll put some of these final images up at the end. But for now, take care. Bye-bye.